As children prepare to head to school, as folks head back into their offices for the first time, as volunteering gigs pick up, all while we continue to live with pandemic worries, I wonder what sort of wisdom it is that we try to impart on our loved ones as they head out the door and back into the world. The wisdom that we impart on our loved ones probably depends on who they are. For our middle schoolers, maybe it's reminding them to put on deodorant. For others, maybe it's how they can make friends. For some, it might be tips on how they might nail that pitch the best at work. Perhaps it's a reminder to be kind in all things. In the proverb that you'll hear momentarily, we hear a one-way conversation from a parent to a child as the parent imparts their wisdom before the loved one heads out the door. As children of God, let us listen to the wisdom in this proverb of our heavenly parent before we too head out the door. My child, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart retain my commandments, for the length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Do not let steadfast love and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart, and so seek favor and good repute in the sight of God and of humankind. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways know it, and it shall direct your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your revenue. Then your barns will be filled with grain, and your vats will overflow with new wine. My child, do not despise the teaching of the Lord, and despise their correction. For whom the Lord loves, the Lord corrects, just as a parent a child in whom they delight. As we prepare for fall's arrival with our myriad of responsibilities that vary at our life stage, this parent's gentle reminder to remember God's teachings, to retain God's commandments on our hearts, is a welcome one. In our busyness and in our worry, we're reminded to remember. Remember, child, what you have long known since the time of Abraham. Know whose you are. Know that the Lord our God is one, the one whom we have been in covenant with and will be, and trust in the Lord with all that you are. The parent corrects the child for leaning into their own wisdom, reminding them to seek God's wisdom instead, because it's here that they will experience that sense of wholeness that only God can provide. This sense of wholeness will bring, as the proverb says, a healing for your flesh and a refreshment for your bones. The Message translates this as, your flesh will glow with health and your bones will vibrate with life. Then you'll experience the abundance of God, that wholeness, that peace, that shalom. Old Testament professor Ellen Davis writes of Proverbs as, for the ordinary days. For the ordinary days when there is not water pouring forth from the rocks, and the angels do not come to lunch. The students of the sages who wrote this text knew this. They learned this wisdom following the destruction of their temple. They learned this wisdom in the aftermath of being allowed to return from the Babylonian exile. They wondered how they would faithfully follow God in this moment. There was no water pouring forth from the rocks, nor angels coming to lunch. Yet these were the ordinary days and a new way of doing life. The sages sought to teach their students that the wisdom is to carry the Lord's teachings, the teachings that have guided their relationship with the Lord up until now, the teachings that will guide them beyond this moment, and the teachings that guide especially right now in this moment. With the vaccine, life has felt a lot like returning from the exile of the pandemic for us. But this return comes with its complications, just as it did for the students. Not all of this return is cheery and rosy. As we face the Delta variant and we wonder, what will life continue to look like as we hear stories of our hospitals filling and children now growing quite ill? We're wondering, how much patience do we have left in us? How much resiliency is still in our reserves? And yet we are still heading out the door. And these are God's words of wisdom for us today, just as they have been, just as they will be. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. The proverb makes it sound easy, but we know it is not. We don't simply fear the Lord, turn from evil, and trust God just like that. But instead, we rehearse turning to the Lord over and over again so that this becomes our route and our routine in the good, the scary, and the unknown days. We practice this so we live our lives and become immersed in this wisdom so eventually we embody it. And so here is your reminder as you head out the door, or perhaps as you have paused during your day already out the door. The water may not be pouring forth, and the angels might not have shown up for lunch, but we can. We can make the choice to keep God's commandments close to our heart in order that we may try to live in harmony with God and with one another. We can choose to embody God's wisdom over and over again so that it becomes our go-to on all sorts of days, even in the busy ones. Even in the ongoing pandemic days. Trust, my child, as a parent says. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Let your heart keep God's commandments for length of days and years of life, and peace they will give to you.